I got educated saying Manipuri gave polo to the world. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yeah. Rachel, would you like to talk about, I mean, I think the question in my mind is that they're talking about ponies and you think they're horses. I mean, I'm thinking that is one sort of very conversation to have. And to think there's a woman in Manipur who's kind of living in poverty, almost, but has so much abundance of wealth in her heart for the ponies and for polo, and how her family and her relationships and her wealth, prosperity is kind of accounted for. Just so many questions are coming to mind. Maybe you can reflect on some of this for us.
So it's not just Achoubi. I was working as a journalist with the Times of India when I went to Manipur, and I stayed there for 2 months. There's been multiple visits to Manipur, but like Achoubi, there are many other Manipuris who are extremely passionate about the Meitei Sagal ponies because it's so deep and rooted within their culture. It starts, the Meitei Sagal ponies, like as per Manipuri literature that we know of, like they are there from the 14th century. So King Kamba was the first one who started breeding these ponies, and this was in the 14th century BC. And by 3rd AD, you had King Pakangpa, who instituted the game of polo as we know it now. And how polo, see, the beauty I think of Hinduism is that it's very plural, and Hinduism just like takes bits and pieces, like from all over India. There'll be Shakti, there'll be a local Durga, and we will make that part of our the pantheon of Shiva and Parvati. Like many local Amman gods will become Parvati, like that. If you see, there is also Marjing. Marjing is the lord of the ponies, and to commemorate him, every year for the last, say, 1,800 years in Manipur, they have this spring festival, which is Lai Haropa. It's right after the harvest, just very similar to our here how we celebrate our harvest festival in Pongal. There also they have this Lai Haropa, and this Lai Haropa is the worship of nature. So if you've seen the movie Avatar, you'd have seen that you don't even cut a branch without praying to the gods that you don't want to hurt the forest. So in Manipur, you have the same concept of sacred groves. So these groves are protected, and everything, the flora and the fauna. So that way, Meitei Sagal ponies, what they have been doing for centuries is when there's a drought or a famine, they let them loose. They go into the wild, and then when things are good and when they have a harvest, they bring them back. So these ponies have been used in farming. They've been used for the game polo, as they used to play it, and they've also been used in warfare. In fact, my favorite stories to tell about the pony is that this pony was the decisive factor during World War II, because the Japanese, when they invaded India via Burma, like this point in Manipur is the only place where World War II was fought. And if you see, the Japanese had conventional warfare. They used to come in through roads, like with their tanks, with their huge tanks. They were bulldozing their way into India, and it was the Meitei Sagal ponies which gave the British their flexibility to fight through the forest, to adopt guerrilla warfare. And they were hardy, and they were able to for 2-3 years, as the war dragged on, they were still there for the soldiers. By night, they would provide a pillow and place for the soldiers to this. So this is how it is, like that. I've seen many farmers, for them it is the choice, just like Achoubi. Do I send my child to a good engineering college, or do I feed the ponies? Because every month it's 4,000, 8,000 to feed the ponies. So it's a conscious choice they're making, where they're depriving their own children because they think of the ponies as their children. So that's my understanding of how much that they love the ponies, each one of them. And we have the Manipuris to thank for the game of polo and for this very important aspect of Indian culture. Yes, she has reared more than 10 ponies, and I got the privilege of meeting Mandi Rani. She's this like the horse Mandi Rani that you saw. She's one of the winners. She's got like for 2 years successive, she's been the best horse of the year. And so she's very snobbish, she's very snooty. She's like, yeah, she's like, she refused to pose for us. So we had to wait, get sugarcane, get apples, try to, yeah, so it's obvious that these ponies are very well feeded. About 4,500, 600, because they have the feed, then they have... In fact, it reminded me very much of Jallikattu, because I'm from Tamil Nadu, and the amount of time and energy the farmers spend on the sport, and also that it's a very crucial part of agricultural biodiversity. There's research. If you see, one of the people is a researcher, and they feel these native breeds are very crucial to our to a rich Indian agricultural biodiversity. Yes, yes. So the Manipur government, they have a breeding center and then they have a farm. So, but this is only a breeding center for breeding them. It does not help the polo players or the game itself. So these polo ponies, many of them, they are just allowed to roam in the streets. So when it's off season, so only during the summers do they have like the game. The rest of the time they're just roaming in the roads, because many of the so for the sport they bring them back and then they play. Not many people are like Achoubi, that they have the stable and they have the ponies with them full time. Oh yes, yes. Like, I mean, even if you see our Olympics, like we have mostly Manipuri women to thank for the fact that we get the few medals that India gets every year. So definitely yes. Like, be it Meerabai Chanu or be it these women polo players, I think, yeah.
With due respect to life and death, was that pony acting or really dead?
Oh no, it is dead. You'll see this like, so if you travel to Imphal, you'll find that like just like cows graze on our roads, and cows are a very common feature, you'll see that these metes are called ponies. You'll see them loitering in the street, and you'll see that they're eating rubbish, garbage, because so many of them are there and not everybody has an owner like Achoubi, so.
Can all ponies play polo, or only the ones that are trained?
No, they have to be trained. So that's where we want like money, funding, and even the director, my friend Meena, she has been trying to raise funds for this, for Achoubi herself, because everything, Achoubi is a farmer, the polo owner, and there's not much money in the sport. Because even if you get to national, international level, still mostly you're funding yourself. So how these ponies come to the stadium, to the Imphal stadium, is that they are forced to travel 70 to 80 kilometers from their remote villages. They walk, or they, they are brought like that on the road, or they are transported via these lorries, these granite lorries. So yeah, the ponies are loaded up and brought. So you're spending your own money, so the sport definitely needs funding.
How is a pony different from a mule? M-U-L-E, mule.
Well, they're just ponies. Like, if you made a pony and a donkey, you'll get a mule. And mules are like, they don't reproduce to this. So,
mainly for transport.
And these are an ancient breed which have been, in fact, there has been some amount of interbreeding with like Burmese ponies, and there is this ancient, which could be like mythical and legendary, but like that Genghis Khan himself, like one of his ponies, from Central Asia, like that there is some lineage from there, but that again is just like legend, it's myth, it doesn't have proof.
Thank you.
Fascinating. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rachel, and thank you everyone for being here today. We'll see you tomorrow.